Alright, what's going on, everybody? I'm waiting for my last draft to upload to put it on here, but this is my newest video from YouTube, as always, turned into a podcast. And it's going to be essentially the beginning part, first half, let's say the first hour and a bit, probably about the first hour, is about Rudolf Steiner and using his view of entities that use your fear as fuel, let's say. And I discuss that because it's not something I discuss often. I'm not in the habit of liking. I'm not in the habit of telling people that there's things out there that thrive off their fear and keep them in fear. However, that is absolutely true. And I'm going to discuss that in here. But the reason I don't like to talk about it is because most people like to think about these entities as something that's here or created by elites or whatever the case is, where that's not the case. We create them. But anyway, so that's what the first half of the video is about. And then I get into a little more depth on, I use identities and how to cultivate a new identity and how to, basically what you can do with your identity and how it pertains to these thought forms that we create ourselves that keep us either in fear or love emotion. So that's just a little prequel or a introduction to my newest video that I'm about to play for you right now. And I just want to make sure the draft was done uploading, and it seems like it is now. So without any further ado, let's start the show. Oh, fucking shit.
Well, I do, but I just don't remember what it is. My wife fucking should record anyways. I'm supposed to be recording to and from work. What's going on, y'all? I don't even know what I'm about to talk about. Well, I do, but I just don't remember what it is. My wife wants to steal Spotify from me, but I fucking should record anyways. I'm supposed to be recording to and from work. And for a while, my recording increased, but now not so much. I look good from that angle, but then from this angle, not so much. And these fucking bubbles on my fucking face again. They just wanted to cut me. I fucking hit a piece of wood. That fucking thing was already there. It's like a pimple, and then it turned into a scab. But then I fucking cut a piece of wood. It was still there. I fucking whack it. Oh, hit myself in the face. You feel stupid when you do shit like that, let me tell you. The most powerful ways in the world. You hit yourself in the face with a piece of wood. When you're trying to not hit yourself in the face with a piece of wood, you feel pretty stupid. But anyways, so I'm cruising along on the highway, doing about $140. That's 140 kilometers, not miles, because that'd be crazy. That'd be 220 kilometers per hour for me, doing 140 miles. So I'm actually going about 140. I'm doing 90s. 90. About 90. I might be a little under 90, like 89, but something close to 90. And now it's going up because the limit went up, so yeah, I'm gonna fucking peel off, baby. So what I have to talk about is I was gonna do an episode about Rosicrucianism, and I was going to play some of that Christian, because I forgot to do that in the last episode. But whatever, it is as it is. But I'm going to do Rudolf Steiner. I'm going to use him because he was a philosopher. His dissertation, when he was immersed in, I think, whatever university he went to, or school he went to, was on free will by Friedrich Nietzsche. So he is, Nietzsche's a fucking philosopher. Well, he's not a philosopher. He's a fucking psychologist, but a lot of psychology and philosophy, I mean, they're definitely not the same, but there's a lot of philosophers sometimes study psychology, sometimes you study psychology, you become a philosopher, sometimes you become a philosopher and then you want to study psychology, I study both, I like both, I really do, and I think being a philosopher that people like to be able to see would be fucking sick, like go philosophize on stage about shit, I fucking love that, but anyways, but there's something that was said on something I was watching, and it was my man, Robert Sepper again. The guy's got a ton of amazing information. Anybody who hasn't ever watched Robert Sepper's videos, I'd say look them up on YouTube. I mean, you should subscribe, but if you don't want to, that's fine. But go through his fucking catalog, both Robert Seffer and Atlantean Gardens. Go through all his catalog and start by watching the videos of stuff you do like. And then, I'm telling you right now, if you start watching things that you have no idea about or don't really interest you, you'd still be interested because he's amazing. I just had the word too, and now I lost it. Fuck. Oh man, it always fucks with me. I always say archaeology, and then I always say architect, and I always say, philosophy, and then it's like he's a fucking, what is it? But anyways. Anthropologist. Fuck, Corey, get it right. Anthropologist. Stop fucking forgetting that shit. Alright, thank you, anthropologist. You don't gotta be an asshole, you fucking asshole. Jesus, don't talk to me like that again, you fucking prick. But thanks, anthropologist, I got it. Try not to fuck that up again, okay? Don't fucking talk to me like that, you fucking... There's something said about something here, about spirits, or about the mystical world, about good and bad entities, let's say, the spiritual entities that feed off humans' fear, okay? And as much as I don't like to promote that there's either non-organic entities or whatever, this is the truth. I don't like to focus on this and tell people that this is the case because it'll make people more fearful and, whatever. And the truth, as far as I'm concerned, is simply that these are thought forms that we've created that it doesn't matter. Whether it's a man-made creation, whether it's a thought form created by somebody, or it's something made accidentally, it needs energy to feed off. There's two ways of getting energy. One way is a lot easier than the other. And you got 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't count. That's how confident I am you'll guess it right. Which one is that? Which energy is that? So, whether you make an entity on purpose or by accident, it's going to need fear or love, that energy, to propel, to fuel itself, to eat off of, to feed, let's say. So if you put that in perspective with what Rudolf Steiner is about to say, because I'm about to play it, then you can get a feel of what I mean. So this is not to scare anybody that there's these entities that are here just to... Sorry, give me a second. That there's these entities here that are just here to fucking fuck with us and feed off our fear. Now, there are entities here, and they do feed off your fear, but, I mean, this is just one way to perceive it. Like, you can take the same fucking concept that there's something out there that if you're in a fearful state, it'll cause you to keep being more fearful. Banish, reject, deny is one of the main things you can do to stop this. But anyways, you can take a whole different perspective to this. As these are... I've had earlier episodes where I got into this. So there's many ways to conceive this. And it's like, this is like archetype stuff. It's like, there's a story of events that happen. What's an archetype? Well, it's a way to personify these events happening, why they happen, the surrounding, you know what I mean? It's very hard to define exactly what an archetypal or an archetype is, an archetypal story is. But basically, it's a bunch of shit, a bunch of things that happen, and we use personifications of deities or, whatever, the just to tell the story correctly. And so, talking about entities. Alright, sorry there, fuckface, not to fucking interrupt you again, but the reason this guy, Corey there, he fucking said it's hard to describe an archetype. I don't want some other asshole coming on here and be like, archetypes are easy, it's why we personify the gods, because, all the emotions and all that. Love is Venus, because it can be everywhere all at once, and it never dies, and it can be in everybody all at once, and it's always going to be there, and when it takes a hold of you, there's not much you can do about it. As much as that's true, that is true. But then some people might say, well, an archetype is a story about something, it's why we have deities, which is also true. But then there's something else, like, you ever get told by, like, your parent, maybe you're a parent, your kid says, I'm hungry? Like, that's not what I named you. Or, hey, hungry, my name is this, It's like, haha, very funny, but I'm hungry. But it's like, I am hungry, it's almost like a name, right? Almost like personifying it. Like, you are now the personification of hunger. And you can say, well, that's not a personification. That's not an archetype. It's like, yeah, no, it is. It is an archetype. You can be hungry, you can be horny. I'm horny. I'm hungry. I am sad. I am in love. You know, they're all archetypes, but it's a little harder to describe or make a story about being hungry. You know, you don't need a whole god of hunger for that. We don't need that, but we do have a goddess of love and a whole bunch of other ones like that, right? But you fucking whore. Anyways, but yeah, so just wanted to interrupt that fucking asshole again there and tell him that, you know, I'm his alter ego, and you know, someone's gotta keep him on his fucking toes. Make sure he fucking doesn't be such a fucking dumbass, you know, because otherwise you're gonna tear this guy apart. Anyways, back to you. Holy fuck, I wish you'd stop interrupting me, okay? I probably would have got around to that. But anyways, back to what I was saying and how I was saying it before I was rudely interrupted. Well, another realm that we can't see that feed off our fear is, in a sense, a type of archetypal story that is accurate, but at the same sense, archetypal and, you know, that's more of a form of thought itself, really, which I know doesn't really make sense, but it will by the end of this. But, God, where was I going with that? But anyway, so, maybe I'll get into some of the other ways you can look at it, and that's a less scary way, if you like using those terms. But seriously, the only thing you really have to do is fucking, interrupted you again, is reject, banish, deny, bitches. That's all you need to fucking do. And you can keep those entities at bay. And, because any of these thought forms in another realm, any of these entities, spirits, whatever they are, okay, whatever they're trying to do, whatever you want to conceive them as, whatever you want to use to describe what this unseen realm is, okay? If you use reject, banish, deny every time you get a thought, as if these thoughts are fucking offers, then you will keep these fuckers at bay, and they won't be able to feed off your fear. What happens is, here's one way to conceptualize it before I play the clip. One way to conceptualize it is, these are a bunch of shitty spirits around you, or good spirits. Well, let's just do shitty spirits. And they're giving you all this, feeding you all these bad thoughts about how ugly you are, how you're never going to be loved, how you have a weight problem, how you have an addiction problem, how you're never going to get over it, how everything's going to go bad, how you're always going to be broke, whatever it is. And you aren't aware that you can accept or reject thoughts. So you assume the thoughts that you have are legit. Okay? Well, then every time you have a shitty thought like, oh, I'm never going to get out of this fucking hole of debt that I'm in. I'm never going to meet the man or woman of my dreams. I'm never going to lose the weight I need to lose. These are fucking entities or thoughts feeding these ideas to you. And then when you accept them, you get put in a shitty mood. So it's not like possession to the point that as soon as you accept this thought, this thing is inhabited your body and you are possessed by this idea. Although it can seem like that sometimes, especially if you start doing reject, banish, deny, and you keep getting that same thought over and over again where it's like, I'm not even thinking about this anymore. I'm trying not to. Why does this keep coming in my head? And if that happens to you, then you're going to kind of know that what I'm saying, what Rudolf Steiner is saying, has some validity to it, is true to a certain extent. Now, these things have been personified in a manner of speaking. So, Rudolf Steiner says there's an unseen world where there's spirits that feed off our fear energy, and there's also those ones that feed off our love energy. We got both. We've got both. Just more of the fear ones. But this is a way, this is an archetypal story to tell you, to teach you about your own thoughts. And, you know, there's really no better way to put that than that. So, yeah, I cut him off again, this fucking guy. If you're wondering who I am the alter ego, the magic to magician side, subconscious side. I know more than he does, but we both need each other, or else we wouldn't be here. So we're both just as important. So I can't say I'm more important than him, but, you know, I'm way more important than him. But anyways, I'll stop with the little back and forth shit. And yeah, so let's play Steiner now. Whoa. You don't get to talk to my viewers or whoever's watching my shit and tell them you're going to get to that video. you're the subconscious. You rule the important shit in the body for sure, but this is conscious mind shit. I do the recording and shit, so just slow your roll there. Know your roll and shut the fuck up and let me do my fucking thing. You're supposed to feed me the ideas as I'm speaking, like what's next on deck so that I get it right. And you got me all over the place all the time. Like, people have trouble fucking understanding me to the point where, like, I gotta keep telling people I'm ADD and please don't follow me for it. So why don't you do your fucking job better and send me the ideas as I get them and need them and keep a good organization instead of fucking around on my fucking channel and saying we're going to go to this video now. Who the fuck you think you are? No. Stay fucking where you're supposed to be and do your fucking job. No more consciousness for you. No more you coming out here talking to the fucking people watching me. Alright? Got that clear? I don't want any answers, so just fucking nod if that's clear. What the fuck, man? You're supposed to nod. Sorry, that was so corny. I'm just trying to have fun.
About thinking which pure mathematics and even applied mathematics can give you.
Steiner not only believed in entities that occupy spiritual realms, that can and do influence us, he also wrote about such beings which influenced ancient history on Earth. In his book, The Submerged Continents of Atlantis and Lemuria, he writes that, and I quote, "Our Atlantean ancestors differed more from the men of today than may be imagined by anyone who is wholly limited to the world of sense for his knowledge. This difference extends not only to the outward appearance, but also to mental capacities. Their science and also their technical arts, their whole civilization differed much from that of ours today. If we go back to the early times of Atlantean humanity, we shall find there a mental capacity altogether different from our own."
Steiner, who explicitly claimed that his insights into Atlantis were based on the use of psi-ability.
Well, Rudolf Steiner is more known as a mystical teacher, a hierophant even, and a clairvoyant. And although he certainly was educated as a philosopher, I don't think he's regarded much in terms of academic philosophy at all.
Well, his early work was in academic philosophy. I believe his dissertation was on the subject of free will.
And Friedrich Nietzsche. Yeah.
And so Steiner's own proclivities are perhaps reflected in the way that he handles the story of Atlantis. He claims that the Atlantean civilization was founded by beings who descended to the earthly plane, but who were not entirely corporeal at the outset.
Consistent with theosophical teachings.
Yes. And they became teachers to a group of early human beings.
Okay, so I've already kind of dipped into this, but I'm going to dip first later on, just to say that this is what we do. I might have already said this, but I want to make sure it's very clear. So, using Atlantis as either truth, factual shit, and or archetypal teach us shit, okay? And I'll get into that after, but this is what you do. Witchcraft. Grab a deity, take on that deity, give it offerings, it teaches you shit, okay? What did they just say? There's these beings that descended down and they were teaching the other humans that were there. Corporeal, not completely, they were formless, or not complete form, one of the other two. Point is, there's beings around you that you could listen to. So, first of all, when I say thought forms, we're making the thought forms, most of the fear things around you, making you do stupid things, saying stupid things, those are your own thought forms. I'm 100% in agreement with that. I think that's the absolute truth. Now, are there ascended masters, or because that's what they're called, is there ascended masters that you could call on, that you can talk to, that will, teach you shit? Yeah. Does that mean they're thought forms? Does it matter? Honestly, probably, yes. They've been programmed to seek out knowledge and come back with the knowledge. And then people call on them as gods, and then they answer people as gods with whatever they're programmed to get. And that's the thing. You can program and make a thought form to get you knowledge that no one else knows. And they will go do it. And then let's say a bunch of generations die, but they hear about this God, but eventually it's not in translation. If something's lost in translation, meaning no one knows it's the thought form created by a man anymore, so we just think it's a God because people call in this entity and it'll talk to them. I mean, there's a lot of gray area there. You can say this about every fucking prophet. Whoever spoke to something was talking to a fucking thought form that was already created by a previous fucking civilization. I can't tell you that's a fact 100%, but what I know is, like, everything's telling me that that's accurate. It's everything in my body right now, the way I feel, whenever I give out certain information, like, it just is. There's no way around that. Now, you can also call on people that have already been in this realm that have passed away. And all the knowledge they know and know now, because there's part of them that's still here, they can teach you things. They can tell you things that you didn't know, things that happened when you were in the bathroom or gone, or, you know, let's say you're talking to your grandmother and there was some big joke when you were a little kid that was said, and when you came out, everybody said, oh, don't worry about it. Well, if you have a connection with your subconscious mind, then you can call on your own dead grandmother and ask her what that fucking joke was, and she will tell you. It might take you a while to get the cross communication and get the hints, and then maybe have a dream or whatever the case it might be, however it works for you. But you will get it. It will happen. So just wanted to add that in there, that be taught by spirits, masters, whatever. Everybody can do that. Everybody and anybody can do that. And actually, I promote that. I think everybody should be doing that. Seriously, it's like the thing to do. It's one of the best things you can do. And, you know, if you're not doing that, then why are you watching my channel? No, I'm just kidding. Ceremonial magic will teach you how to do that eventually. Witchcraft will do it a lot sooner, that's all. So yeah, that's just something I want to say. So I don't know about the whole Atlantis thing, what they said. I don't know if Atlantis is a real place or not. I'm one of those who believes that there was something there at some point, but I mean, there's really no way to know. Unless, you know, like everything else, they do fucking divination for it. But, you know, sometimes just if just use divination to find the answers, like, Atlantis is real? It's like, I don't know, it's kind of a waste of a divination, you know what I mean? I only want the most serious things. To use this power on, you know. But anyways, getting a little sleepy because I'm driving home and it's been a 12-hour day and stupid Friday. But anyways, so yeah, this is a new day. Like the little bit you just saw was yesterday. Oh no, we didn't even get to that yet. Well, you're gonna get to the yesterday stuff shortly, and this is today. The shit before that was like Sunday or Monday. I don't even know. Anyways, so let's get back to Steiner and the two dudes talking about Steiner. All right.
Who wound up developing a society that inextricably intertwined what we would consider material advancements in technology with psychical abilities. Mm-hmm. So that on the one hand, you have some of the same technologies that Francis Bacon describes. But on the other hand, Steiner emphasizes that the mind interfaced.
I was joking there for a bit. Probably my subconscious wanted to talk and I'm fucking pushing him back. Anyways, yeah, Francis Bacon, do you hear me say that? What a weird coincidence. My second, I didn't even know. I didn't even hear that when I recorded it. That's why I heard it when I recorded it. See, I can't lie to you guys. But, nonetheless, fucking cool, eh? Talking about Francis Bacon. Had the same kind of ideas. And that was the Masons. So anybody who's trying to say Masons are bad and whatever, well, I mean, once again, there's bad Masons. Yeah. There's bad priests. There's bad popes. There's bad sisters, there's bad parents, there's bad seagulls, there's bad fucking bunny rabbits, there's bad everything, there's good things too, you know. So anyways, I just wanted to point out real fast that, you know, I did a whole video on how Francis Bacon is really William Shakespeare, and how William Shakespeare and how Francis Bacon edited King James Bible, and so much more. That's my last video, go check it out if you want. But I want to point out here that, you know, he's named Francis Bacon, had the same ideas as Rudolf Steiner, which is fucking cool. But anyways, back at it.
Of these devices, so that if we were in possession of some of the Atlantean pieces of technology, we probably wouldn't be able to make them work. Or at any rate, someone who wasn't an adept in psychokinesis wouldn't be able to make them work.
It reminds me of the movie Forbidden Planet, the 1950s science fiction movie.
Actually, that's a very good comparison, because the way the story ends for Rudolf Steiner is that these Atlanteans turn their minds against one another.
Mm-hmm.
They begin to invade one another's minds with terrifying visions, and turn their psychic abilities essentially into a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
This becomes the cause of the demise of the civilization, although he also agrees with Plato that there was a great flood and earthquakes as the cause of Atlantis' destruction. He suggests that these alterations in the natural environment were brought about, again, by a misuse of psychic ability or psychokinetic ability.
Which is not so different from Plato's description of Zeus wreaking revenge.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And also Plato's description of the way in which the demigods of Atlantis were beginning to use putatively divine powers for secular purposes that they ought not to have.
Mm-hmm. I suppose, in a sense, it's an echo of the biblical story of the Tower of Babel.
That's right. I think it is, very much so.
In a way, humans rising up to challenge the gods in one way or another.
Yeah, the most interesting element in Steiner's account is he suggests that at some point a cognitive change took place where we went from a mentality that was based largely on memory, where learning was a question of a vast store of experience, and the Atlanteans thought in terms of images. We transitioned from that into an analytical mode of thinking, and this destabilized the Atlantean society because only a few people made this transition at first. And then with their newfound analytical capabilities, they were in a position to manipulate the rest of society. And he actually traced the guru-worshipping cultures of India and the pharaoh-worshipping culture of Egypt to this transformation in Atlantean society.
I see. In other words, that the Atlanteans had godlike kings? Is that the notion?
A few of the people who developed a new form of thinking began to manipulate a society that was still largely linked together psychically through a collective consciousness. And he thinks this influenced Egypt and India because after the destruction of Atlantis, the Atlanteans went around and colonized various parts of the world, or perhaps relocated themselves to colonies that they had already established in various regions.
Well, there's some people who wonder about the fact that we have pyramids in Mesoamerica and pyramids in Egypt and other similarities, that there was once a global culture going back to prehistoric time.
Thank you for joining me today. My name is Robert Sepper. I'm an anthropologist. You can find my book.
Oh, that right there is huge. Maybe I should actually get the subconscious to chime in on this. Fuck him. No, I'll do it myself. Okay. And I mean, by doing it myself, I mean subconscious is going to feed me the shit correctly. Okay, asshole? Nod, please, this time for me. Fuck, I'm stupid. Anyways, okay. So, people are still connected by a collective consciousness. Some of the Atlanteans make a cognitive switch to analytical thinking. Don't ask what that means. Everybody else at this point is looking in images. So this means that everybody in images is seeing as they want things to come, and because they're seeing this in the images, they're able to, who knows, manifest what they want slowly at the same time, and everything's fine. When people start thinking analytically, maybe it's intellectual, who knows? Maybe it's them being able to see the future and fuck with the future, who knows? But what we do know, what he is trying to say is, few of them were able to affect the collective because they were thinking in a more advanced way, and because they're still connected to the collective, which we are all connected to our collective. So if a few of us can think a different way and do magic a different way, then we can affect the entire collective. Now, having 7 billion people help, I made a video on this not too long ago. Remember this? Whoever remembers this? About the Illuminati. If there was such a group of people, they would want the world. Okay, I don't mean Illuminati, okay, because I am Illuminati. But what I mean is, for us elitists, if we want to take over the world, well, we want the world to be smaller. We want the Georgia Guidestones kind of population, okay? We don't want 7 billion people because we can't control 7 billion people. That's too many in the collective. We have to have too big of a group, and there's not that many people that are willing to be enlightened like us. So, but that's kind of what it sounds like, right? There was a small group of people able to fucking do whatever they wanted to the entire group. But these people that weren't so balanced. Maybe at first they were, but then they stopped being so balanced because then a bunch of shit happened. So, but I thought that was very interesting that he said that. Rudolph Steiner said that. These guys are quoting. But yeah, that's magic. We can all do that. We can all do that. At least on our own personal level, first of all, and within our families and all that. We can do that. We can absolutely, positively fucking do that. It's not hard. Do it all the time. But anyways, we don't want to talk more about that idea, but I'll let this video play out and finish, okay? Holy fuck, it's already done. Okay. Well, let's see what else I can get in. Alright, what the fuck's going on? So, it's like a fucking, I don't even know when I recorded last. If that was the weekend, Sunday or Monday, or what's going on, but it's Thursday. I'm at home with my wifey. I'm looking all fucking, yeah, baby. I don't know why I do shit like that. I won't do any more subconscious, conscious Corey shit. Well, I'll try not to. But anyway, so I want to expand a little bit more on that idea, or maybe get into it a bit. So, first of all, did Atlantis exist? Did it sink? Did it all that? I don't fucking know. Do I think so? Yeah. I for sure think Atlantis, but I think with these stories we gotta watch. Because, whereas, I don't know how long ago, 50 years ago, maybe the church would tell you that Atlantis didn't exist. Well, now, with the progression and how people are grabbing onto New Age ideas and all that, it's likely that the church might grab onto Atlantis and tell people that, okay, there was a split, there was good people and bad people, and, because honestly, when you think about that story at Atlantis, depending on where you get your information from, but, what they just said to us there was a consciousness shift, and there was a small group of people that used their power, their thoughts to control the world, and eventually became the demise. That's the whole knowledge of good and evil. Everybody was on the same page, and then Adam and Eve woke up out of the fucking bunch there. They are now conscious, and brought everybody down to the point where, boom, the Bible slowly tells you that story. So the Atlantis story is the same. Now, is this to tell us we're all bad and make us victims? Maybe. Is this the tale of mankind? Is that an archetypal story of us? Because that's what we do. We can be good for a while, then something bad is going to happen, and we're going to make bad choices. And depending on the severity of our bad choice, we might bring down civilization. Sure, that's exactly it. Look at our history. Look what happened in World War II. Look what happened in the Cold War. One of those guys launched the nukes. As soon as the States or Russia would have launched the nuke, the other one would have launched the nuke. And most of the world would have been destroyed, except for some people who had to repopulate the fucking bitch over again. But it didn't happen. We get to a certain point, and then we fucking lose it, and then bad things happen, and then we gotta rebuild. That's life. So as much as people like to say, okay, the Bible makes you a victim, and you're a bad little sinner, it's like, okay, but as much as I don't like that or believe that, it has truth to it, because I don't think sinning is anything, okay? I don't think you can be a sinner and all that. But we have good choices and bad choices to make in our life. And our good and bad choices are going to depend on our personal circumstances and what's going on in our life. That's simple, okay? So my good choices may not be the same as someone else's, and my bad choices might not be the same as someone else's. Simple as that. And a lot of us could have it wrong by working a 9 to 5. That could be the wrong choice. We should be maybe at home trying to figure out what we're supposed to do for our living. Or maybe the people that, anyways, doesn't matter. I have my lighters in the car. Everybody's gone right now. So I shouldn't smoke in the house, but I do. So fuck it. What are you gonna do? I can't be perfect. I'm pretty darn close, but I can't be perfect. But anyways, so Atlantis and a lot of those stories, the Gnostic stories, all these stories, kind of echo all the same stories. Oh, fuck! It didn't like. That's what this archetype shit is.
It's stories that help us, that we can learn from, that we can pull pieces out of to help us figure out how to navigate our lives. So that's the first part I want to talk about. Now, second part is, okay, say this shift, it did happen. Atlantis is not an archetypal story. It's a real story. It really happened. What does that mean, Corey? Well, I don't fucking know. What it means is they discovered that some people discovered that they wanted to do for self. They wanted to be above each other. Kind of like I had a video a while ago that if there was a small group of occultists and we only had 500,000 people or 500 million people here, a small group of occultists that are very powerful and trained for a while could control this world and world events, could sway our collective, could even potentially sway Mother Nature and do weather magic and shit like that. But this many minds and this much diversity and people being separate, which is a good thing, by the way, because everybody is all united under one bed. Everybody's always watching the same shit. And there's a good chance that all our minds are going to be even more linked. They already are linked. We're already linked. But people around the world that don't have like a TV or a phone that shows them the rest of the world and shows them a view and a map of the world, you know, they might not know how far or how big the world is. So you give them that, and that extends their brain. It makes their brain develop and makes it bigger, right? So that's why knowledge makes your brain bigger, makes you smarter. The more you know, the more your brain's like, holy fuck, it has to start making new neurons, but it has to make all these new parts. You have to develop to store that, because as soon as you know something you didn't know before, it's like, okay, fuck, I know this. But before that, I didn't know that, so every part closed off. You thought you knew everything, and then all of a sudden something opens up, which makes all these other possibilities. You know, it's a beautiful thing. But anyways, the point is, it's a good thing that we have the diversity and all that, but I think this is a good story for us to know. I think it's very important, especially with New Age, because a lot of New Age people may not take the Bible seriously. And now with this, it's like, okay, you have the power to change reality. You have the power to do a lot of fucking things, but so did the people in Atlantis. And then some people got too far ahead, and they fucked everything up. And you might think you're powerful and want to do these things, but your power is no good if you start using it the wrong way and you fuck all this up, because then you're by yourself. And then you can't use your powers, or you're gone. So once again, everybody wants to say the rich and the greedy are fucking killing us off, want us dead, want us enslaved and all that. Maybe the slave part, yes, but they need us to propel them higher. You can only be rich if there's somebody poor. You can only be on the top of the hierarchy if there's a bottom of the hierarchy. If you're the only one there, well, then you're just one person by yourself. So I'm telling you right now, there's no poor people, there's no rich people that just want to kill everybody. It's not going to happen. Do they want it reduced? Maybe, to control shit, so that they can have more control like they had, but there's no going back from that now. So Mother Nature's got our back. But anyways, I like that idea of what they're talking about, but more importantly than that idea of Atlantis and the consciousness and them being connected and all that, more importantly than all that shit is the spirits, the unseen world that beat off the fear, okay? Now, in the beginning I said I don't like talking about inorganic beings, but it's definitely something that's real. Well, I don't mean inorganic beings, okay? That's not what I mean. I don't think that's real at all. I don't even know what the fuck that is. That's Ralph's word, and Ralph knows what that is, and that's cool. I don't know what the fuck that is. But to me, everything's a form of thought. Everything is. So it's a big umbrella blanket for me. But these spirits, the only things that aren't are the elements and the planets, basically. But all the deities are associated with planets, but they're not the planets. Well, those things are form of thoughts normally, just a little more elaborate, archetypal, you know what I mean? And that's why they associate to the planets, because it's something that lasts through time. Whereas, you know, you saying that, why does it always rain after I wash my car? Well, that thought form you create, that's not going to last throughout time. You might gather people to do the same thing and add energy to it, but it's not going to last throughout time. Like Aphrodite or, you know, whatever. Mary and Jesus or Horus and Osiris and Isis.
All right, before I go any further, I'm going to do some comments. I had a few. I think one I say in here that's no longer there, but there's one from Mika Vlog PC. I said sorry on, I think it was the Join Not Optional video I made about Thunder Wizard's video, Join's Not Optional, and the comments I was getting from someone who said Joy is not optional. But that one's been since deleted, so it's no longer there. I could go to my inbox, but I don't want to. But anyways, so yeah, I'm gonna go to some comments now and go from there, and potentially keep going on spirits, other realms, and other ways to deal with it besides reject, banish, deny, and what to think about it so that you don't scare yourself or worry about it.
Alright, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's comment time, it's comment time. Now, I had one from PC, Mika PC, Mika Vlog PC, Mika Vlog PC, I think it was, for sorry, for another Dissecting Thunder Wizard, or Joy's Not Optional video I made about Thunder Wizard, but I think they've since deleted that fucking message, so no worries. Then I got another one about a week ago from Barefoot Sungazer, who was someone who asked me to talk about specific topics, and I didn't really deliver on that, so my apologies. I did look into the chakra removal, and I give everybody my opinion about why chakra removal isn't something I would give too much thought to. Now, I'm sure that, like I said, there's misinfo on every level of everything, but I just didn't want to get into too much of that stuff. Now, I did my fair share of looking at that stuff at a certain point in time, and I just didn't want to go back into it and dive into too many of the fear-based conspiracies. But like I always say, I think they serve a purpose. I think there's many purposes to fear-based media, and one of them is to reach enlightenment.
All right, so I think I just said enlightenment there for fear-based media and conspiracy. And while that can be maybe true, not that the conspiracy going down those rabbit holes won't necessarily lead you to enlightenment, but they will get you to your initiation and or get you to break some programming, get you to open your root chakra, meaning, once you break that programming, you start getting connected to Saturn, and then the Earth Star chakra, let's say, if there is one such a thing, that's in the ground. That energy will flow up now that your root chakra is coming in, which also really helps. Now, is it really a chakra under the ground, under the feet, everywhere you walk? Maybe, who knows? Or is it just a way to perceive what the process, right? As soon as you open your root chakra, then you are available and able to access the energy that's coming out through the earth. So, but anyways, so I didn't necessarily mean enlightenment, like, oh, you watch conspiracies and now you're enlightened. It's like, no. But what I meant to say was it's the beginning process of getting into spirituality to a certain extent, especially when it comes to like chakras and shit like that. There's a process, like milestones and shit like that you have to do and reach. And I think, not for everybody, but I think for a lot of people, the fear-based media / conspiratorial stuff can really help with that beginning step. Anyway, so Barefoot Sungazer about a week ago to my video, Reptilians, Targeted Individuals, Money Problems, and the Election. For that video, it was written, which, I mean no disrespect whatsoever. I appreciate everybody who views my videos and leaves a comment, so I appreciate your kind words, Barefoot Sungazer. I really, really do. Hell yeah, dude. You are fucking awesome, and your videos are rad as all hell. Seriously, man, this video, just as most, if not all of your videos, has so very many greatly profound and essential nuggets of truth jam-packed in it. Grateful to have found you, my friend. Keep up the good work. So once again, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I really, actually, I don't want to say any more. I can't make it that any better. I really do appreciate you leaving that comment. It's very sweet of you. So, thank you.
Now, just today, I've received a few comments from Jafar, Sab, NW. And I think Jafar has very much similar ideas and beliefs as me, which is very, very cool, and I like that. So, I'm trying to locate here first. Want to do these fuckers in order. Okay, so, yeah, here we go. So did the Illuminati edit the Holy Bible? Okay, so I think that's the first one he left a comment on. He wrote, no, if anything, they wanted people to step away from Christianity, but there were over 100 versions of the King James Bible alone, and most of those left out books in the 1611, which he's absolutely positively correct there. All the Nagamati fucking library books, or Gnostic Gospels, whatever you want to call them, all those fuckers were left out, especially like the Book of Enoch and things like that. Should definitely, I don't know, it should have been a part of it, but I feel like, especially like the Book of Enoch, would either scare people too much or would really prove that it's more allegorical, I guess is the word, and mythos, you know what I mean? Because it's like, was there really giants on the earth? I mean, I know people are trying to prove it and think it was, and I'm not against the idea that there was Nephilim and giants and shit at a certain point. I'm not convinced, but I'm not against the idea either. I'll leave that for, the anthropologists and archaeologists and whoever else to prove that shit. But, so, obviously I replied. Now, I replied to a different one first, but I'll give you the reply on this one. It was, you're not wrong, hence why a very powerful Freemason such as Francis Bacon hid Masonic symbols and sigils that help those who see them wake up and have an internal response that can lead them to a spirituality that will satisfy them. Too many people can feel there's something missing, but know not what it is. Okay, let me see. Too many people feel there's something missing, but know not what it is they're missing, and chase impulsive gratification, and it's not always their fault. Unfortunately, it's very hard to find a copy of that Bible with the original artwork, but Francis Bacon has many books. They are all outstanding. The other reason for the symbolism was to let other Masons know who edited the Bible, and at least that version. So that was my reply to the first one. Now the second one was for the video Illuminati Truth and How to Counter, meaning take back your power. Shit. Sorry about that. I was playing some of the video there by accident. And don't get that twisted. If you see that title and you think it's me dissing Illuminati, I mean, that's not the case. I am Illuminati. I've made that very clear. So, and the picture of it is me with my Illuminati symbol on my right eye, showing only my left eye, just so I could prove that point. But he wrote, I think I have the same talisman except different material. And I mean, maybe you do, maybe you don't. For the material, mine has been melted, burnt, wax on it, scratched up, a whole lot of different things. But none of those things were done in vain or to harm my talisman or to break it or anything like that. It was all done to, in the process of using it for magic and taking the power out of it and all that. I've already made videos on how when I used to wear that, I used to get weird stares, but I could use that power, especially with the transformation sigil I had carved on there at one point. However, it got attacked a few times because it would break the chain, so now I use it in a different way so that it's unseen, kind of like how people think the Illuminati operate behind the scenes. But anyways, so I think that I have the same talisman except different material, is what my friend Jafar, SABNW, says. So obviously I replied as well. Nice. If you haven't done it yet, you should cleanse, consecrate, and charge it with an intention that adds to your manifestation power, abilities, or whatever works for you. But that's what I did. And then he commented, I used it for my last Yule ritual, which I've liked and hearted I don't know what the heart means, but it means something. Maybe it's because I love it. Maybe the thumbs up's a like, and then the heart's the love. I don't know. But so, yeah, I think it's fucking sick. And yeah, I appreciate all the comments and whatever the case is. I have a feeling I'll probably comment on my other one whenever you decide to. But thank you once again, both of you, for commenting and your kind words. Thanks.
I should really probably stop adding so much content to this fucking video, but I still have my conclusion to do. But I'm gonna just add this in here because I didn't state how much I agree with Jafar. That the Illuminati back then. So everybody thinks the Illuminati, this group that was created in Bavaria and then was dismantled by, I don't know if it was the king, whoever it was, or it was whatever the government or the church. Back then was probably one and the same. Was the church, the governmental system, and the monarchy. But they told them they had to dismantle themselves. Why is that? Well, go read some of James Pike and some of these. It was the king, whoever it was, or it was whatever the government or the church. Back then was probably one and the same. Was the church, the governmental system, and the monarchy. But they told them they had to dismantle themselves. Why is that? Well, go read some of James Pike and some of these Masons and known Illuminati people, members. Go read some of their books. Most of it is exactly what Jafar is trying to say. Trying to keep people away from the church. You have this small group going against the big monarchy, government, church structures. What happens? Church has more people. They demonized the Illuminati. And now everybody and their brother's uncle thinks the Illuminati is a symbol of this elite group that are reptilians or Masons or god-awful people that fucking eat babies. And they're god people because whatever. Point is, it's ridiculous, but that's the truth of it. So I just wanted to throw that in there because I think I agree with you 100%, Mr. Jafar. Thank you for your comment once again. I'm not done talking about your comment, but this is a new day, and I was just listening to it, and I heard it, and I was like, yeah, man, I agree. They were trying to do something about it. A lot of people tried to do something about it, but because of the church present, it's so hard to go against that. And the people even running the church now, I mean, some of the really old priests might know something about something. To be honest, all the new priests being initiated, going to the seminary, becoming priests, they have no idea. They just like the religion, figured, hey, my sacrifice, maybe. Anyways, doesn't matter. But they decide they're going to become a priest, so they go become a priest. And then, do they ever find out the truth? Probably not. They probably just keep doing God's work. Who the fuck knows what happens, but I don't think they even know anymore what the hell happened back then and what's going on. But yeah, so I just want to throw that in there. So I agree with you. I really think that the churches who demonized the Illuminati, and now we're just so many generations down the way that we have no way of knowing. But anyways, back flags. Anyways, sorry. Thank you for commenting again.
Holy fuck. Sunday morning, y'all. Going to church. As soon as I walked in that church, but it'd be so much like heat condensation coming off me, like I was burning, being the devil and all. Just kidding. Although I got a comment. Anyways, doesn't matter. They're calling me the devil or a demon. Just funny. Which, I actively try to tell people what my opinion of the devil and demons are, how they are just thought forms and they're nothing to fear. The only time you fear them is if you fear them. And I gotta say, Jafar, who's been commenting and all that, it's pretty cool because it's cool to see somebody who seems to have the same kind of view as me. I like that. I like the fact that he thinks the same thing about the Illuminati as I do, that they were trying to help people. Even Tom MacDonald said that in one of his songs. And maybe the Illuminati really want what's best for the people. In Buttholes. That's the song, Buttholes. Trying to get people to wake the fuck up. How do you wake people to fuck up? Put them in fear. Or extreme. You gotta take one of the extremes, you know what I mean? It takes one of the extremes to wake the people up. If our people who know the secrets in our society just keep going along and reaping the benefits and manifesting what they want over and over again, without waking us up and just keeping us in this like content state, like we're in the Garden of Eden before our eyes open up, you know what I mean? We're just cruising along, nothing really fun, but nothing really bad happens. And then what happens? Well, you go on the internet, you see some Illuminati shit, you get the apple knowledge of good and evil, whatever you want to fucking call it. Boom, your eyes are opened. Everything you learned as a child, everything that was safe in your life is no longer safe because you know there's deception out there. And it doesn't necessarily mean that all the shit you just saw is real. Satan or the church is fucking really the devil or the Illuminati are trying to kill us, whatever the case is. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is now you have a taste of the knowledge of good and evil, because that shit's probably not real, but people are lying to you, trying to pretend it's real. They're trying to get you scared, and that's deception. That's lies. That's the real nature of this. It's made to put you in fear. Why? Well, the overall goal is to wake you the fuck up, but the primary goal is probably to wake you the fuck up, but the initial goal is to keep you in fear, keep you away from this stuff. But they don't know they're doing the work for us. Those people, those conspiratorial fuckers, they have no idea they're doing the great work. They have no idea they're doing what needs to be done. They have no fucking idea that they are part of the transformation culture community. I'm telling you. And they could fucking say I'm wrong, I'm full of shit all I want, but I see the end result. I have a buddy I work with right now going through. It's slowly happening, but it's gonna happen to him. Right now he's in the nihilistic point, or he's flirting with nihilism, I guess. It can say just lost his grandfather and doesn't believe there's a point in anywhere we go, or there's no afterlife and whatever. I'm not positive if he believes in reincarnation or not, but I know there's something to it. I know there's something there. This is his conscience telling me what he believes, but I can see how he acts, and through his actions, the subconscious tells you what he actually believes in. He acts it out. He acts out exactly what he believes in. So, but how do you tell somebody that? You can't go up and tell him, be like, yeah, well, you're consciously telling me this, but by the way you act, you still believe in this. He's going to be like, well, first of all, what's that based on? And I can tell him exactly what it's based on, but then I'm going to get his cognitive dissonance going to attack me, and I can hit him with all the reasoning I want, but he's just going to shut down and not listen, so I just kind of let it slide. And tell him he's going to find his way. Eventually I just end up saying, don't worry, you'll find something to believe in. And I think he asked why finding something to believe in was so fucking important. And because I told him, because you can become nihilistic. This is what happened in the fucking around Hitler time. This is what happened around in Russia and China. When they had no more belief in God, they started believing in their country full force, and then a bunch of people got fucking killed because your country can manipulate you at that point. We don't want that to happen. And I think we're all in a better state than we were back then. And there's a lot of laws that can protect us, but nonetheless, you gotta watch that shit. But anyways, all this is to say that I like everybody and anybody commenting on my stuff. I love it. I absolutely, positively love getting comments. That's why I always take time to fucking say them. Except for the ones that are deleted now, unless they serve a purpose, I probably won't be showing them or speaking too much about them. They get deleted. Because, they're deleting it for a reason, I'm guessing, right? So, for me to fucking go and get it on fucking
get it off my email and show you and then say it out loud. It's just kind of silly. But we'll see. If it serves a purpose, then I'll still do it. But, yeah, I like how Jafar, Sab, NW, likes the same things I like about the Illuminati and all that. And yeah, I'm dead serious when I say that these fucking people are doing the great work for us. They are doing the great work because they are putting out the information that is going to lead to people waking up and finding spirituality. So, you know, that's a beautiful thing. So yay for that. Now, I'm going to tie something else in here. I'm going to make a new point. I think it refers to... I'm going to use something a little different that I don't think I've ever used before. If anybody out there has watched the channel, Charisma on Command. Charisma on Command, okay? It is a great channel. So there's a bunch of people walking by, a bunch of little girls in short fucking shorts and shit. You know, it's too much. You know, it's too much, too fast. They're trying to look older than they are. I get it though. Everyone's hitting what they look like. They don't express themselves. Girls are trying to act like women. Boys are trying to act like men. It's just the way it works. But, you know, having 2 daughters, it kind of drives me crazy. Weird though, the one daughter looks older than the mother. But anyways, who the fuck knows? Jesus, okay, anyways, I gotta stop. So anybody out there who's ever watched Charisma on Command, I am a subscriber to Charisma on Command, and there's been a lot of things, I've talked about it before, there's a lot of things on there that will help you from job interviews to just being able to manipulate people the wrong word, but there is some things in there that can help you manipulate people. But more than that, it's to teach you how to become, I don't know the right words I'm looking for. So I'm going to go to the clip about it. Now this is going to be about identity. So not so much the spirit things. But the reason I want to tie this in is because initially I talked about how I gave you not proof, but what Rudolf Steiner's beliefs are. Because Rudolf Steiner's no longer with us. So unless I take his book and I make Siri read you shit from his book, which I can do, but I find it's better to find people that talk about Rudolf Steiner or any person that I do this with. And this way you can hear the information from their views to a certain extent, as long as I try to find the most neutral-based views. Obviously, everybody has their opinion on what they're speaking about, but so that's why you'll seldomly see me playing books, but I have. And that's just because I couldn't find anything else that talks about it. Like Napoleon Hill, Away in the Devil, I played generally right from his book. And it's just because a lot of people's opinions on the internet are ridiculous when it comes to that book. I mean, I find the truth is right there in your face with that book, and people just sidestep it. And it's just because political bullshit and fucking, whatever. It doesn't matter. But, so, the point is, Rudolf Steiner's views and opinions were that there is things around us in the unseen realm. There are entities that feed off of our fear, that eat off our fear, or feed, I guess is probably the best, but it's like they run off of those emotions, okay? Those emotions keep them going. Those emotions power their being. There's no way. Anyways, sorry. There's no way she's the fucking mom, man. Shit. I mean, she, from the back looks cool. She is. In the front, she looks fucking young. Anyways, doesn't matter. Anyways, I'm so fucking. Like I said, the fucking daughter looks younger, or looks older than the mom. It's fucking ridiculous. But anyways, So Rudolf Steiner didn't believe these entities. He knew 100% without a shadow of a doubt that these entities were there. So I started off this by saying that I don't believe it's of any value to go out here and tell people that there are entities making you scared so that you do things so that they feed off your fear. Because I think it's better to teach people that we create thought forms. And these thought forms are going to do the same thing. We create these thought forms out of fear. So when the thought form is created out of our fear emotion, with the thought that created it, right? Oh, I'm so worried that I'm never going to be skinny. Now you have this thing that was fueled by your fear of never being skinny. All right? You created it, and it's going to whisper in your ear all the time that you're never going to be skinny. And you keep getting these thoughts and keep accepting it. Now, I think these are the things that Rudolf Steiner is talking about. I can't say without a shadow of a doubt that there isn't something that's already been created by something else out there doing this. But there is to a manner or a degree, because everybody who's ever lived before us, these things don't die when the people die. These things are fueled by energy. And in our society today, let's say we have a bunch of good thought forms, which we created out of love. Well, what do you think there's more of? Love or fear? I'd say there's more fear than there's love. And if there is any loving thought forms, they are going to surround people where they get the most love energy from. So they're not going to be around you if you're in fear, right? Even if you start becoming in love, if these loving thought forms that have already been created by whatever, society, religion, other people that come before us, they're going to be hanging out where they get the most love energy. If you're in a place where there's not much love energy, where everybody's always negative and pessimistic, well, you think those things are just going to come smell you out and just come to you? I mean, if you can stay in that state, that whatever, long enough, then yeah, they will come there. But for the most part, you're going to be surrounded by the negative ones. And you have to reject, banish, deny for those things to not affect you. And more than that, you got to start doing practices like the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, and maybe even the greater ritual of the hexagram, to banish these fuckers. And then start doing sigils and magic to banish even more of these fuckers. And block you or stop you from ever creating them. And you got to find a way to word a spell to help whoever you live with, where you may think these things originated from. Because if you're doing everything right, you're no longer creating them. If you were following the process that I'm doing or that I promote, you know what I mean, then you are no longer creating these fucking things. So you don't have to worry about you creating these thought forms. Although, if you ever do freak out because you're a magician and you've trained yourself for which, and you're training yourself to focus on one thing at a time, if you ever do slip up and fuck up and do it, it's going to be huge. It's going to be your job to put it down, just know what the fuck you're doing. And if you need clarification, just send me a message and I'll let you know. But you can word a spell to protect your loved ones from creating these things, and you just got to get creative with it. Now, I have done a few things, and I can maybe go over those in a future video, but I don't just want to give all my secrets away. You know, that's kind of what I do, but I mean, I don't know. I'm starting to think of some of these things I could make money off of, but I don't know if I want to do that. I just like talking about it, you know? Point is, Rudolf Steiner believes these things, there's these unseen forces out there. I believe these unseen forces are thought forms that have been created by people. Every people that's ever been alive. I think the space that we can't see between everything is filled with these beings. Because we don't know we create them. And they're not like people all the time. They're just thought forms. I don't know what they look like, and I can't conceive of it. I'm not even going to try to conceive of it. I just know that there's these entities that have a type of energetic life to them, and their one purpose is the purpose that we designed them with. To the very weak ones that, you know, may only last a couple hours, to the very strong ones that are made by people that will last a long fucking time. So, all this is to say is, this identity bit by Charisma on Command, I'm going to tie it into this spirit / entity / thought form process, or what this guy's talking about. What I've been talking about. Trying to make the point that there is things out there, but it's our own creations. And once again, if you are at the level of the magician, the magi, the witch, and you understand the process of thought forms, then you are protected from these
thought forms if you so choose. Okay? But the reason I'm going to tie it into identity is because of many things. Let me start with the video first. I'll chime in, and I will get to my point that way.
Weird writing in season 7 of Game of Thrones.
Run back to Eastwatch. Get a raven to Daenerys. Tell her what's happened. I'm not leaving you. You're the fastest. Go, now!
But there was one scene in the final episode that absolutely nailed it, and it got one character's arc that had been set up for seasons and really took it home. And this is the line where it all came together.
Always seemed like that. Like there was an impossible choice I had to make. Stark or Greyjoy. You don't need to choose. You're a Greyjoy. And you're a Stark.
That's why in this video, I want to talk about why Theon Greyjoy's identity as either a Stark or a Greyjoy is so psychologically important for his character.
Alright, I guess I could have warned y'all it was going to be about Game of Thrones, but I didn't think about doing that. But it's going to be about Game of Thrones. I think they're in season 7, so if you're the type of person kind of like me, which I haven't watched season 7 yet, I used to watch Game of Thrones and loved it when I was watching TV. I don't watch much TV now except for with my wife, but Game of Thrones is something I would totally put on and just fucking do nothing and watch TV all day. And as much as that's probably not good. Sorry about that, someone's beside me. And as much as that's probably not good to do, I feel good. Wow, I'm really gonna watch the whole weekend of fucking TV? Game of Thrones? Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah, I would. You gotta enjoy the little things every once in a while. If I wanted to spend one whole fucking Sunday like today and just sit down and watch nothing but the Game of Thrones, I'm gonna do it. I'm not gonna fight that or anything. No, it's bad. No, it's bad. No, it's bad. Don't do it. It's like, no. If I want to do it, I'll do it. I haven't done it yet, so clearly it's not something high on my list to do things. But so just so everybody knows, Game of Thrones. If you're like me who haven't watched all the seasons yet, for whatever reason, mine is because I stopped watching TV. So I think like, what was that season 4? But it's something I definitely want to finish. I don't even know if they're done yet or not. I have no idea. But anyway, so Charisma on Command is going to break down psychologically Theon Greyjoy. Which, if you watch the show, you kind of know he gets fucked. Like, manipulated to think he's a whole different person for a while. And, he's a fucked up character. But just to talk a little bit about something important, like we just talked about, he says you can be Greyjoy or Stark. Those are both last names. So this is a character, for people who don't know, who was part of a different house. He was with the northern people, the Starks, King of the North, basically. He was part of that family, but he wasn't. And he finds out his real roots. He's a Greyjoy, which is, I don't know. I don't want to get into all that. But the point is, Greyjoy and Stark are both last names, okay? And we all have 2 last names if you think about it, right? My mother's last name is Jeannot. My dad's last name is Leblanc. So I'm both a Jeannot and a Leblanc. That makes me up. But then if you break down the Jeannot, my grandpa Jeannot, well, he had a mom and a fucking dad too. You can break down. So we are the multitude of a fuckload of people. Over and over and over again, throughout history, throughout our society, throughout our family tree. But this is one of the reasons why I think people look at their genealogy and, because I even done it. I wanted to know where the fuck I came from. I wanted to know what was in my blood and all that. Like, it matters, but I wanted to know it. I wanted to know it all. And I think that's part of the reason people do it, is to figure out who the fuck they are. Let's say you have a drinking problem. Well, maybe you see you're Irish or Scottish, and then now you have a reason to blame. You can blame your drinking on that part of your DNA. It's probably not a good idea to give yourself an excuse. You should just own it and be like, I like fucking drinking. So what? Drinking is fucking fun for me. So fucking what? And if you drink too much and you're fucking up your life, well then you fucking stop. Or you try to get help if you can't stop, because it's not that easy. And I know that. Don't ever think just because I say stop, it means that that's an easy task. It's not. Everybody knows that. But anyways. But I think people look at their roots and their ancestry and their genealogy and, to find out who they are so they can know who they are, because it's hard to know where you're going until you know what you've done, who you've been. And, you don't know, you can't see your future until you see your past. All these little cliche lines. Some of them are true, some of them aren't true. It depends on the person, to really be completely honest. From my opinion, my humble view, it depends on the person. Some people
it doesn't matter. Like, when you're on your autopilot before you start waking up, let's say, I guess, you're not going to give two fucks, really. And then all of a sudden, whenever things hit the fan, you're going to kind of want to know. And part of it's because people want to know what they may be capable of, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But anyways, that was just to give a little bit of context to anybody who may not have seen it or who hasn't watched it all yet and may want to. There's going to be some spoiler alerts in here. But to be honest, I haven't seen the season, and when I watch it, it doesn't really spoil much for me. It doesn't really matter. But the one way I'm going to tie this in is because our identity can be changed or can be formed. So, let's put it this way. When you're a child, you're born, you're given a name. So when you're given that name as a child, you don't have any characteristics yet. We don't know what color our favorite color is. We don't know the color of your eyes, your hair. I mean, you have a good idea. If you have, blonde hair, blue eyes, there's a good chance you might grow up and still have blonde hair, blue eyes. But my father, who's got darker hair than me and brown eyes, was born with blonde hair and blue eyes. He's got Rh negative blood, O blood, just like my grandmother had, the witch side of my family. Which, if you look at the burning times, they burned a lot of people that were Rh negative or O, more than any other fucking blood type. Those are universal donors, those people, right? And there's places around the world where that's concentrated, where people are. Anyways, if you watch Robert Seffer and view his videos, you'll find all this shit. And some of them are rated the title, Rh negative blood. It's very fascinating, just so you know. And I'm not saying if you don't have Rh negative blood, you're not magical or witchy or anything like that, because I don't. I'm fucking AB. Whatever the fuck that means. I don't like to give blood. Fuck giving blood, man. I can't fucking handle that. And it might be mean, it might not be nice. I don't fucking care. If I'm ever in an accident and I need blood, well, I'll be there on my deathbed. Like, fuck, I wish somebody gave blood, because then I could have got blood. But until that day happens, I ain't giving fucking blood, because it makes me fucked up and it feels weird. And when you know a little bit about sorcery, or necromancy, sympathetic magic, let's just say. If someone has a part of you, they can fucking manipulate it, alter it. So if people have your blood and they decide to do tests with it and run whatever and see how they can add disease to it or remove things to it, fucking alter it, they're altering you. It's part of you. It's an extension of you. When I clip my fingernails, baby, not all the time, I put them in the garbage a lot sometimes, but for the most part, I try to burn everything that I get rid of. I cut my own hair, I fucking get rid of that myself. I don't let that go in the trash, it goes to some landfill. I do as much as I possibly can. But anyways, that's just a little bit about that, because think about it. If you really believe in conspiracies, I'm not saying I do, but if you want a conspiracy, or you want a fucking crazy idea, if they wanted to infect people with disease, and you believe in sorcery or necromancy or sympathetic magic, because basically, if I want to do something to somebody, if I get a fucking DNA link from them, their hair, their fingernails, their blood, their spit, take that, I can make a doll, I can make a picture, I can just take a thing that I wrote, that I'm binding them, and put that in there. I can even burn it so no one ever sees it, so they don't know, and keep the ashes in a box, tap that box, you know what I mean? I can bind somebody like that. And you can also do whatever you want to it. So, and I've done it. It works. This thing works. This is what I did with somebody that I work with to get him off my fucking back. And it worked fucking phenomenally. Phenomenally, okay? Now, think about this on a grand scale. The government has everybody's fucking blood. They want to give everybody cancer. They want to depopulate the place. Boom. They add disease into all the blood they have there. Hopefully their own family isn't there, but who the fuck knows, right? Add cancer to this blood and see if we can cure it. And that's a worthwhile goal to do. They might not even be doing it on purpose. Let's say they just try to let's add cancer to this DNA, this cell, this blood. I don't know how it would work. This is just all hypothetical. But they add add to the blood. Let's see if we can kill cancer. You got to start from the bottom, right? So if they can cure cancer in a small little, okay, we added some cancer cells to this blood, attacks it, becomes the cancer cells within this blood. However that works. If they can cure that, then they can work their way up. And then as they go up, once it stops working, they got to figure out what they have to add and subtract. And, that's how science works. You don't just start the biggest problem and then figure out how to fix everything. And you start the smallest and you work your way up. But if your blood is in there, and your blood is part of the blood that they're adding cancer to, well, what do you think is going to happen to the blood that's in your body? This is why we can program water. This is why we can banish disease if we have some of our own urine. This is how we can do a lot of magic. The Voodoo Doll was initially doing it to yourself. Voodoo Doll. You would make a sympathetic link of yourself. Put your hair, put your fingernails, put your blood, put your spit, put whatever you want on there, okay? And that doll, and you make that doll rich, you make that doll skinny, you make that doll whatever. That's the point of magic. It's all really sympathetic magic to a certain degree. Your altar, your tools, they're all extensions of your mind. Things you manipulate on your altar end up happening in your life because it's a symbolic representation of what you want to happen. You're showing your subconscious what you want to happen. And if you put enough energy into it, it happens. So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, a little tidbit about sympathetic magic and one of the many excuses I use to not give blood. But anyways, so when you're a baby, we are giving you're given it a name. Now, there's nothing into that name yet, but as you develop your hair, your eye color, you start walking. The speed you start walking at is going to tell your parents, okay, maybe my kid's advanced, maybe my kid's behind, maybe my kid's average. And then you start talking. Depending on how you talk, maybe my kid's advanced, maybe they're slower, maybe they're average. You know what I mean? As you start doing things, you're going to like maybe playing with trucks. If you're a boy, you're like playing with dolls if you're a girl. And vice versa. Maybe your boy likes playing with dolls and your girl likes playing with trucks. Doesn't matter. You're going to keep developing things. And your parents' consciousness is going to be adding to your identity as you go. As they observe you in their mind, both your mother and your father, independently, having two different ideas of what you're going to do. Dad sees his little boy, might think, okay, he's going to be a hockey player because that's what he wants to be. So he keeps giving you hockey sticks, and maybe you're good at it, maybe you're not. The mom doesn't give a fuck what you become. Maybe she's thinking a doctor or a lawyer if you're a boy. And maybe if you're a girl, she's thinking, she's going to be an actress. She's going to be whatever she wanted to be, let's say, maybe a dancer, maybe interior, who knows? Maybe she wants you to be a lawyer or a doctor as well. Who the fuck knows? I don't know. Your father's looking at you like, maybe she's going to be this. I hope to God she doesn't turn out to be a stripper or something like that. So, other consciousness is adding their conscious ideas of what you're going to become is adding to your identity all the way through. But your name is what attaches all this to, because whenever someone says their name and they're thinking about you, your mom and dad's ideas of what you're going to become are it. Now, as you get older, those ideas start becoming either further away or closer to coming into fruition. And then you fucking don't like hockey. And you end up becoming a boy, and you end up becoming an artist. Your father doesn't like that because he wants you to be a hockey player since you were birth. So that causes, some bullshit, some strain on the relationship. The fact that he wanted you to become something to live out his fantasy because he was inadequate and couldn't fucking do it or whatever the case was. But point is, then as you become, holy fuck, he's a good drawer. So that's added to your consciousness. That's added to all the skills that you have. And then by the time you're in your 20s, 30s, fucking even the teen, you are a group of all these things that people were observing of you, and then you also take that on. You're connected to everybody's subconscious and consciousness, correct? So as you get older, your parents tell you, okay, well, this is what you did as a baby, this is what you do, blah, 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 and you start thinking, okay, well, maybe I want to do this, maybe I want to do this, maybe I'm this, maybe I'm this. The things you're good at, the things you aren't good at. It's all added in there, okay? So that's all part of your identity. But how was I explaining how that was formed? Well, it's from the ideas, the thoughts of your parents watching you do something, and then they would have a thought. And maybe it's all this emotion, but put into it like, he's going to be a great hockey player. And maybe that thing whispers in your fucking ear every once in a while and tells you. Maybe these are part of the entities. Maybe the moment your father realizes that you're not going to be a hockey player, he's so sad, like he's never going to be a hockey player. That creates a fucking thought form. that nags at you. Like, you're never going to be good at hockey. Like, I don't even like hockey. Why do I feel like I gotta play hockey all the time? There's something telling me I should be good at hockey, but I don't want to be good at hockey. You know what I mean? So this is how I'm going to tie this together, is that the thoughts and ideas of you and your parents are what forms your identity throughout your life. As you go on throughout your life, all your different thoughts and ideas of yourself, your negative or positive self-talk, the things you say to yourself, form you. Now, within Charisma on Command, he's going to say some very powerful stuff about affirmations, about self-talk, about self-image, about programming, about... There's a lot of magical shit he says in here. He doesn't go to the magical place, but he says a lot of magical shit in here. So make sure you listen carefully, because it's very important. So, but that's how I'm going to tie this all together with identity and thought forms and, spirits, the negative entities that feed off your shit. They're your creations. So you have to start commanding those things. Kill them, get rid of them, use them to your benefit if you want, but you gotta get rid of them. You gotta realize that we don't create our thoughts, but where do our thoughts come from? Well, our thoughts come from our created thought forms. Is one answer to that. And other people's created thought forms. Other people's thought forms can affect you as well. That's what I mean. Like, if there is a bunch of energy somewhere, if it's fear, then you're going to have all the fear thought forms around you. This is why people talk about vibration, frequency, and all that. Well, your vibration, let's say, is your emotional scale. So you are in fear emotion, or you're in love emotion, and everything else in between is a different frequency of those vibrations, right? It's a different resonance, let's say. But whenever you are in a fearful one, then those entities... they're going to be around you because you match the same frequency that they like, and they're going to feed off of. So you are susceptible to them doing things to fucking piss you off or make you scared, so that you generate that electricity, that energy that they want. Okay. And if you're in love, so this is why I say like attracts like and all that, which like attracts like, but it's on the magical scale level, right? This is the magical level that I'm talking about. Because you can't see these entities, can you? No. Opposites attract for us, for people. But anyways, so that's why all that shit comes from, the like attracts like. So if you're in positive thoughts, you're going to get positive things. Well, yeah, because you're going to get all the happy thought forms around you. And they're going to say, well, maybe you're going to be rich. Or you are going to be rich one day. And you accept that thought, and then you can start becoming rich. There's someone who's around all negative, and we're using these the wrong way, negative and positive. So no, you know what, you should, if you've been watching me for a while, you should know what I mean by negative and positive. But all the good entities are going to be around you, giving you good ideas, and you can follow those through. This is what Napoleon Hill talked about in Outwitting the Devil. When he was on a good roll, he was getting good ideas, and when he followed them and accepted those good ideas, he got more success. When he stopped following those good ideas, he started getting all these bad ideas, and when he followed those, he got so low that, he witnessed a fucking murder, he was in witness protection, like it was brutal. So this is what he talks about, and this is how it works as far as I can tell. Now, the way I'm going about teaching you it and telling you it, does that mean this is complete fact? No. I'm using archetype, I'm using symbolism, I'm using language that you and I have been watching for the last few years to explain you look at it, as long as you understand the concept. Okay? So these thought forms that we create, or anybody else creates that affects you, are going to feed off the energy unless they're dealt with. And you got to think about your fear and your love in the same regard. So if you're in a good mood and you're giving off love energy and you're getting more ideas and good things are happening to you, so you're giving off love energy, does that harm you? No. If you're in fear and you're giving off fear energy and they keep putting you more and more fear, does that harm you? It can. How can it harm you? Well, stress and anxiety. Those things can give you disorders, diseases, illnesses, sickness, whatever. Maybe even infection. Who knows? So, but in the same sense, if you don't allow yourself to get anxious about what you're fearful of, then it can't harm you, as long as you don't get stress out of it. This is why I say if you have these fearful thoughts, you got to do your best to not put emotion into them, because it's magic. That's how you bring shit to life. That's why these magical entities, these thought forms, feed off of that, because that's the essence. We can't see it, we can feel it. Anyways, I'm going to get the Charisma on Command. I think I
did a good enough job telling you how I'm going to tie it in and explaining a little bit more about it. And now I'm just going to chime in on this motherfucker. All right.
We're going to discuss how a sense of identity helps Theon recover from his devastation at the hands of Ramsay, and how we can all think about our own identities so that they serve us in the best and the worst times of our lives. First off, in the context of Game of Thrones, being a Stark or being a Greyjoy mean two very different things. Starks are honor-bound to a fault. They're morose, and they're completely without guile. Greyjoys, on the other hand, are pillagers who take advantage of the weak, enjoy the hedonistic pleasures in life, and are constantly looking to improve their position. Theon's choice to identify as a Greyjoy in Season 2 over a Stark changed the entire course of the story. While geopolitical outcomes may not lie in the balance, each of our personal identities does have a similarly critical effect on our own lives. As Tony Robbins puts it, your sense of identity is the strongest psychological force in your entire life.
I never watched Tony Robbins much, period. But I've only seen him recently as an older man. Man, he was a good-looking dude, too. People might start thinking I'm gay, but I keep commenting on guys being good-looking guys. Well, you hear me talk about when I see fucking good-looking girls, so, you know. Depolarized, baby. Both sides. Neutral. Can't get much more neutral than this motherfucker. But I like how he goes there. And this is, to me, this tells me something about Chris Command, the dude talking. So if he the things he hints at are the things he's looked at, the ideas. So obviously there's going to be times where he's doing a video and he wants to find something and he will Google it and he'll get a good example of it or something. But for the most part, he's going to draw on his previous information, the previous things he's done and learned about. So that he's drawing on Tony Robbins tells me he was in self-development. He was maybe in the truth. He might even be into meditation, magic, chakra, yoga, shit like that. I definitely know at the very base level, entry level truth / spirituality he knows about. The more this video goes on, the more you're going to see that's evident. But just something I wanted to point out. And it's absolutely correct what Tony Robbins says there. Absolutely correct. And I know Tony Robbins might have gotten in trouble or had some allegations against him. I think he bet them, but I don't know. I really don't know much about Tony Robbins, to be honest. But yeah, holy fuck, hey, tall and good looking, man. Wow. It's crazy. Good for him. Those good looking guys gotta stick together.
If you see yourself as a winner, you're probably going to find a way to win. And if you think that you're just lazy and useless, well, you're probably going to find a way to make that come true as well. This is why it is so important that we pay attention to our identities. And first off, we need to recognize that identity does act in a self-reinforcing cycle.
Fuck, man, I might be stopping this too much. It might be better off to just wait till the end and write down what I want to talk about. I might have to do that. But identity acts in a self-reinforcing cycle. Now that's fucking something good to understand. So everything you do throughout your day reinforces the identity that you were born with, that you were given. These thought forms we talk about. These accept, banish, and reject. Okay? Why does Frederick Xavier say reject, banish, deny? You're going to have to do it over and over again until the point comes that these things don't want to fuck with you anymore, that you stop getting these thoughts. Because these are the things that are self-reinforcing your identity. One way to look at it, one way to conceive it, especially when it comes to your image. So your identity is sometimes physical, you know, sometimes it has to do with your body type, what you're going to look like. If you look fat, skinny, if you're good looking, whatever the case is, okay? Sometimes it's going to have to do with your personality, whatever the case is, but I'm never going to be funny. I'm never going to be this, I'm never going to be that.
First, there is a stimulus in the environment, and in Theon's case, that's being reminded that he isn't of Stark blood.
It's your duty to represent your house when your father can't. And it's not your duty, because it's not your house.
Second, what happens is that we create a story that has implications beyond the initial stimulus. This is an identity, and in Theon's case, he believes that he ought to be loyal to the Greyjoys instead of the Starks, since he does not share their blood.
You'd have our father bow down to your other family.
I have no other family.
Third, we act in accordance with our identity, and that's exactly what happens when Theon betrays Robb and invades Winterfell.
I'm taking your castle.
And lastly, after we take action, we get more results that reinforce our initial identity, just like Theon, who became stuck deeper and deeper in his own mistakes, despite the fact that it looks like he regrets very much his decision to betray Rob. Because this is a self-perpetuating cycle, our identities seem like a completely real thing. After all, we are always getting results that confirm our identities. But the problem is that identity, whether it's Stark or Greyjoy or something else entirely, is an illusion. And sure, we might be born into a particular family and have some inborn proclivities. Some of us might be more shy or outgoing or smart or athletic. But the truth is that at any given moment, you are free to act out of line with your identity, or you can redefine yourself entirely. In fact, immediately after Jon Snow's acknowledgement that Theon can be both Stark and Greyjoy, Theon does change, and he finally, after 7 seasons, acts both ferociously and honorably in order to convince his men to go save Yara. So as real as our identities might feel to us, whether we think we are Greyjoy or Stark or talkative or hardworking, we need to keep in mind that we can always change. The problem for Theon is that he always wanted something bigger than him to tell him how to behave. He wanted a concrete, undeniable identity, a house name, to guide his actions towards the right path, and instead, he had 2 opposing identities with 2 opposing courses of action.
I always wanted to do the right thing. He's the right kind of person, but never knew what that meant.
Even though it's an illusion, the nice thing about having one coherent identity is that even though it doesn't always lead us down the right path, it at least justifies bad decisions as unavoidable, which is what Theon's father Balon did.
I will take my crown. That is who I am. That is who we have always been.
I'm talking so much about identity because almost all of us have the same innate desire to define ourselves once and for all in a pretty little package. Even if it's a quote-unquote bad identity like lazy or selfish, we cling to the idea of identity because it would be so much easier if codes of behavior came programmed into us and we could just write all of our actions off with the saying, that's just who I am.
All right, just quickly need to point out, that's exactly what I just said about the Irish and wanting to drink and all that. How you can use it as an excuse to either continue to do bad things and continue to have your shitty ways. So, just a thought. Just want to point that out. I'll be at the end of the video to give you my thoughts. Anything else important, like I said before, just really wanted to point that out. That's probably where I got the idea from.
The scary truth is that in each moment, you can shift how you're behaving. You can reinforce your identity, as Balon does, and say that's just the way that you are, or you can act against it, as Theon does multiple times throughout the series.
What is your name?
This doesn't mean that one simple change in behavior is going to shift your entire identity. It takes more than that. And by the way, if you're getting caught up on the idea of identity, this is also very similar to self-image in Psycho-Cybernetics, if you've read that book. Whether it's identity or self-image, you can think of it kind of like autopilot on an airplane. In the moments where you aren't consciously steering, identity is at the helm and it's guiding everything. You can always veer off path, but if you don't shift the autopilot, sooner or later it's going to kick back in and you'll wind up right back on track to conform with your identity, which is what happened the first time that Theon tried to regain his courage after becoming Reek. He hadn't fully embraced his warrior self-image, and so he fled. So the question becomes, when we're trying to make positive changes in our life, how can we make them more long-lasting so that we're not just veering off path for a day on a New Year's resolution, but we are truly setting a new destination in our autopilot? And the answer is by choosing and actively reinforcing a new identity, a new self-image. Now, this isn't an easy feat, but Theon's story does give us insight into how identities shift in a near-permanent manner. First off, names matter. This is why Ramsay insists that Theon remember his new name of Reek. Whatever you say that you are, whenever you say that you are something, you are subtly changing your destiny. Watch what happens when Theon says that he is Reek.
Tell him he couldn't trick me.
I'm not tricking you, Theon. I'm saving you.
He is Reek. My name is Reek.
You're Theon the Greyjoy.
I don't believe it.
Compare that to what happens when he starts starts responding to his true name of Theon. Now, in the books, he hears the weirwood trees calling him by his name, and in the show, it's Sansa repeatedly calling him Theon instead of Reek that breaks him out of the spell. Like Theon, we are all capable of a wide variety of behavior, from cowardice to courage, stupidity to genius, you name it, depending on the words that we choose to label ourselves with on a consistent basis. So don't take this lightly. When you say that you are shy, for instance, you're telling yourself that you will always be that way. And it might seem like a crazy inconvenience, but it is much more empowering to say something like, I've often felt shy in the past. This creates space for you to change in the future if you so choose. And if you want to choose, affirmations of what you're going to be are very powerful over time. So use the power of identity to support yourself, in this case by writing out 15 times, I'm super confident, on a daily basis. Ramsay understands this intuitively, which is why he pushes the name Reek so incessantly.
What you tell them?
I'm Theon Greyjoy, son of Balon, heir to the Iron Islands.
And what are you really?
I'm Reek.
Until when?
Always. Forever.
That's right. Remember what you are.
The second thing that Theon's story illustrates about shifting identity is that environment and peers are critical. Watch how Theon behaves when he's surrounded by Northmen, and I believe that the words that he says here are of the utmost sincerity.
Am I your brother? Now and always.
Now and always.
My sword is yours, in victory and defeat, from this day until my last day.
Contrast this with how Theon behaves after being surrounded by Iron Islanders.
I'm a Greyjoy. I can't fight for Robb and my father both. My men are bringing your people together in the courtyard.
Why? Why?
So you and I can go down and tell them how you've yielded Winterfell to me.
I won't.
Yes, you will.
Like it or not, we are the same way. Our behavior is probably going to change depending on our peer group, so choose to be with people who bring out the best in you. I've covered this in other videos, so I won't go deeper into it here. Third and lastly, when it comes to shifting environment, habitual action trumps labels. Theon is constantly trying to convince other people and himself about his identity. He talks about it and frets about it, but what ultimately defines him are his actions, and I believe that Batman Begins states this point best.
It's not who I am underneath, but what I do that defines me.
So step one when it comes to shifting an identity is to choose one that will empower you. Then reinforce it with your words. Affirmations are great here. Reinforce it with your environment, which means surrounding yourself with the right peer group. And of course, to set up reinforcing habitual actions. And I'm going to link to a video in the description on how you can do this. This will all go a long way towards forging a new identity and thus a completely new set of actions and outcomes in your life, a new destination. The problem is that every identity eventually becomes limiting. Now, sure, it's probably better to see yourself as smart rather than stupid, but seeing yourself as purely smart may stop you from acknowledging deficiencies or even from working hard. And if you then were to incorporate the hard worker identity, you might have a hard time relaxing. So be very wary of locking in an identity forever. Instead, consistently check to see if the identities that you have are serving you. In fact, I would recommend you do that right now. Write out 10 things that you truly believe that you are in the phrase, I am blank, 10 times. Then write down how that identity helps you, and if applicable, how it holds you back. And if it holds you back too much, Theon can attest that sometimes a new identity is just what you need to break through. Now, I am most excited to see how identity plays out in the case of Jon Snow. Like Theon, his story has been about identity, but in Jon's case, it was more about forging an identity when there was no structure there. After all, the only thing that it means to be a Snow is that you're not something else, in his case, a Stark. But now that he's going to discover that he is truly Jon Targaryen, I'm expecting some existential crises to set in, and I can't wait to watch it unfold. Also, if you are personally looking to shift your identity in a big way...
Conclusion time. It's conclusion time. All right. Now we're going to finish this bitch up. Well, so that was Charisma on Command. That was his episode about the psychological something of Game of Thrones. And it's a damn good episode, just so you know. Obviously, you can tell. But, sorry about that. All right. So,
lots of things in there. I don't even think I really need to clarify and even add to it, but I'm going to, and hopefully it's not to confuse you further. He talks about affirmations even in there, so that's kind of a really big tell of spiritual development, but as in self-development in the Tony Robbins way. But I agree with him. The whole affirmation wear out. Saying affirmations can work, but you got to say it a lot. Writing affirmations 15 times a day, I think, is more powerful than saying an affirmation 100 times a day. Writing is way more powerful. It's energy on a paper. It's both what you think, and you read those after too. It's even more powerful. That's how I did my affirmations when I was reprogramming my mind in different ways. I would write them down, and then as statements of intent, as spells, but they were affirmations, and then I would write them down and I would record them. So I also had it on a physical book, and then I had it on a recorder, and listened to that when I was sleeping. That is super powerful. But all that to say is the whole affirmation thing he said, bang on. Write your affirmations down if you don't want to say them. The better off that way. Or record them and listen to them. And this way you don't even have to say them. You just listen to them, put yourself in a trance state, put yourself into a sleepy state, meditative state, and listen to your affirmations and see how fast those fuckers come into being. Okay? But let's get back into identity as a form of thought, as these spirits. Okay? So there's many things he said here that pertain to what I've been talking about. So initially this episode was supposed to be about fear entities or love entities and feeding off your energy, which, just so you know, you don't have energy and they don't take energy from you, okay? They don't do that. What they do is sometimes can keep you in your fear state or in your love state. Works both ways. You can use these things to your benefit. So the problem is in us, we've deemed that fear is a bad emotion, but it is useful sometimes. It most certainly is. It's useful less often than it's helpful. Just like the love state is useful more often, but there are times where being love and being too trusting and stuff like that can bite you in the ass when you should have been in fear, because then you would have been leery and you wouldn't have got taken advantage of. So that's where the yin yang comes in, that little bit of dark and all that light, and that little bit of light and that dark. Well, that little bit of light and that dark is the times when you're supposed to be in the fear emotion, and that little bit of dark and the light is the times you're supposed to be in fear instead of the love emotion. You understand what I'm trying to get at? So everything works like this. There's a scale to everything. Fear is probably mostly bad, but there are times where it's handy and it's useful. Love is mostly the good thing, but there are times where it's not useful and handy to be in. So, and that's how I want you to look. That's how I look at it. And I think that's the most beneficial way to look at these entities that are in another realm that we can't see that can affect us here in our realm. They're on the mental realm, the physical, the thought realm, the spiritual realm, if you will. But the mental, where all these deities and gods live in our mind, in our spiritual mind, where we think of these gods being somewhere else, still in our mind. But they can affect us also there at the mind level. Now, there's something here he said that is important, that is something that Thunder Wizard teaches often, and I want to point it out because I want to show that I'm just not here to fucking shit on people like the Thunder Wizard or anything like that. I think he does have some useful things. Thunder Wizard doesn't like to think that thoughts affect our reality as much. It's all action, action, action. And he says, you can be in a bad mood, but if you take the opposite actions, you won't play out what's going on in your head. So to him, the thoughts don't have an effect. What I'm saying is your thoughts can affect your reality. And if you're in a shitty mood, it's going to be hard to go out there and pretend that you're a happy person when nothing good's going on in your life and all you're doing is thinking about bad thoughts. But he's not wrong in the sense that, because he got into something at the end here, it says, habits beat your labels, your identity. Okay, so if you're identifying as a lazy motherfucker, but you're able to get out there and stop being lazy, well, that's going to trump that identity. If everybody says, oh, my kid's so fucking lazy, you keep saying that about your child, yet you expect them to not be lazy. It's not going to work like that. Labels and words have power. Names have power. I am this. You are that. Those things are powerful. This is why we use I am or I will. I will a thing is powerful. I am a thing is even more powerful. The things you call your children, yourself, anybody else has power.
Okay, sticks and stones may break my bones, words will never hurt me. Bullshit. Words can hurt you or they can help you. Get that in your head. You can block from it. And that's the point of ceremonial magic. A lot of these things that we do stop other people's words and thoughts and thought forms from being able to affect us. And whether these things were designed to do that, they have this master code that stops from happening, or it's just simply a symbolic thing to do to your subconscious mind so that it knows you're protected, is irrelevant. It works, so use it. It doesn't matter why it works. But let me go down my list here. You can redefine yourself at any time, is something he said. Okay? Because you are your identity, but your identity is false. He even says that. He even says that in this. Your identity is an illusion. So Corey LeBlanc, the guy was Corey LeBlanc, everything is programmed to that. Whether it's ex-drug addict, it's a hardworking, it's a father of four, it's whatever. These are all things that are true. But when I go to Ottawa and I'm with a bunch of guys and I'm not with my family and I'm not in my home, I can be wherever the fuck I want to be. I can leave my identity at home and go there and be something else. To the point where people are like, wow, I couldn't even tell you're a father of four. Well, you don't look it. Well, you're 34 years old? Hell, I didn't even know that. So you tell somebody your age, they don't really know. Now, you may look older, you may look exactly your age, or you may look younger. But until someone knows how old you are, they have no idea, right? This is a good example of your identity, how it's an illusion. See, if you don't think I look 34, before I told you I'm 34 years old, you might have thought I was younger or older. You see my sister, you might think she's my younger sister, yeah, she's my older, or vice versa, okay? But you can redefine yourself at any time. Now, this doesn't mean lying. It doesn't mean going out there and telling people you're rich. And I know some people say in truth communities that you can lie and eventually it'll come into fruition, but that's only if you are using it properly, in the sense of, I am so grateful that I'm rich. But you're not actually rich yet, but you're saying that because you want to be rich. Well, if you don't believe it, it's not going to happen. Second of all, you got to fucking figure out how you are rich already. And then you tap into feeling rich, and then you will become the rich that you want to become. But I'm rich because I have all the things I need. I'm never going without. I have 4 beautiful children. Everybody is healthy in my house, in my home. Everything is going great in my life. That's how I'm a rich man. So I walk around like I'm rich, and then I don't have to worry about money anymore because I know I'm rich. I know I'm rich on a different level. But I just want to specify that doesn't mean lying. But yeah, you can redefine yourself at any time. Just because people think you're lazy or useless or stupid doesn't mean you are those things. That's what they are adding to your consciousness, to your identity. You can accept or reject those things. And that's why I'm tying these two together. Because just like the spirits, the thought forms, those entities that can feed off your fear or feed off your love, okay? You can reject or banish those guys away, or you can accept them, just like you can with your identity. You can allow someone to say that you are all these things. You can say, yeah, you're right. Or you can say, no, I'm none of those fucking things. Go fuck yourself. You have that option. You always have that option. Don't let anybody ever take that away from you. Identity feels real, but we can always change. Okay. Well, that's kind of what I already went through. It's that your identity feels like it's a real thing. As real as your identity feels like what you are, that you can't ever change. It's bullshit. You can always change. The only constant in life is change. And that's why, like, whenever he said about, we like to use our identity, like, I'm always going to screw up, and that's why I keep making mistakes, just who I am. It's like, no, you can always change that. Want something bigger than himself. So this is Theo Greyjoy, or whatever his name was. Theon, I think his name is. He wanted something bigger than himself to tell him who to be. He couldn't make the choice himself. He couldn't pick Stark. He couldn't pick Greyjoy. He needed something bigger than himself to tell him who he was. And then that's why Snow tells him at the end, he's like, well, you can be both. It's okay to be both. Sometimes you have to be this one, sometimes you have to be that one. That's okay. There's no big issue there. Stop thinking. And then he was able to move on. Someone told him finally who he has to fucking be. And he was okay with it. But it had to be okay with himself inside. You can have your parent tell you who you are all you want, but if it doesn't match how you really feel, it's never going to work. But I want to play this into somewhere else. Whichever organized religion, but we tend to use Christianity a lot. So Christianity, they are using the Bible, God telling them who they have to be, because people want to know what they have to do. But a lot of people don't like having no direction. They don't know what this should be. So you give them this book that says, this is our history, this is our religion, this is what God wants you to do, so do it. People like that.
because they can follow a certain order. They can follow specific guidelines and be organized. Not everybody. There's a big percentage that doesn't want to follow that. So they find a different one that jives with them better, that they can follow. That's why we have so many spiritualities. But it's the same concept as that. It's something bigger than them telling them who to be, so that they have a reason for what they do. Okay, when you don't have that, you can become nihilistic. If you don't have something bigger than you saying, hey, this is what you have to be, and you don't take that responsibility on yourself and saying, well, you know what, I can be whatever I want to be. So instead of letting this hypothetical God from this Bible tell me who I should be, how about I think about what I want to be, what makes me happy, and then cultivate, create my identity around that. Banish and reject all those thoughts that are coming telling me that I can't be that I'm never going to be rich or successful or a business owner or loved or have a great partner or skinny or good looking or strong or be able to work out every day or have discipline, or I'm just going to be a drug addict or an alcoholic or a gambler or an addict to food or addicted to porn. Banish all those things and I'm going to become what I want to become. That's what you have to do. And then you can start making your habits, creating habits and thought forms that help you achieve those goals. And I'm not saying you have to go through the magical process to make these things. You can just start doing what you've always been doing, just in reverse. You've always been saying you're never going to be rich. You're always saying you're never going to be pretty. You're always saying you're never going to be skinny. You always said you're never going to be successful. You said you're never going to be a good parent. You're always going to be a loser. You're never going to be smart. But you flip that and say, I am this, I am that. And you create those thought forms to help fuel you. They'll feed off your love, and they'll keep feeding you the thoughts and ideas you need to propel yourself to get there. That's what the magician and the witch does. That's what we do. We use these things in the correct way. We know they exist. We know they're there, so we use them to our benefit. We no longer are stuck. See, I'm getting an emotional response just talking about it, so I know it's real. We use these things in the best way that you can. Okay? So don't allow other people or other things, or Bibles, religion, to tell you who you are. Find out who you are from inside. Sit with yourself. Write what you think. You don't like to write, then talk out loud. Record yourself. Figure out what you are, what you need, what you want. Then cultivate your identity around that. At the very least, if you need to have multiple identities, not personalities, identities, then you can come home and be the father, and then you can go to work and be the worker. But then when you have your time, then you become the identity that you're cultivating. And if it's not correct at first, well, then you can keep tweaking it. Because once again, the only constant is change. You can always change. Something we need to incorporate. A lot of people like to say nobody changes. Things that it's too hard to change. Maybe, but it's the only thing that does happen, because you never stay the same age. You might stay the same height, but for a while that changes. You never stay the same in the same place. Nothing is constant. Everything changes. So why can't we? What identity to pick? Identity is like self-image. That's something I already went over. The way you think of yourself, what you think you should be versus what you are. Okay, so your self-image lies in there. You have this internal image of what you think you should be, and then you look in the mirror and you don't see that. Well, why don't you change that? Why don't you change that to what you see in your head? You visualize yourself as that, and you keep saying that you are that. You keep saying things that help you get to that. See, saying that you're perfect already is kind of silly. Now, I know everybody wants to say that. It's like, God made you perfect. God made you perfect. It's like, well, why would that can't motivate you to become better. So it's kind of useless. So it's like, as good as I am already, I want to become something better. That's a better line of thinking. So because when you look in the mirror, you shouldn't think you're ugly or terrible or whatever the case is. But you should still be able to want to improve as well. So you got to find that fine line. You want to know you're okay the way you are, but you can always be better. And as long as you're always striving to be better, then you always will feel great. It's whenever you're not striving to be better, and then you keep looking in that mirror, then you don't feel good about yourself. Meaning, like, if you think you're overweight, but you're eating things you shouldn't be, well, that's going to keep fucking with your mind, because you know you're doing something wrong, yet you're not stopping. And then you look in the mirror and expect something different to happen. That's the definition of insanity. Keep doing the same things, expecting change. It's not going to happen. You got to do something different if you want to change.
Identity is in control when you are on autopilot. I like that line. I like when he said that. It's at the helm. So meaning you're caught up doing whatever you're doing. Whatever has been programmed into your consciousness is right there. That's like the subconscious. That's why I say if you're doing dishes, you're listening to something, it's going right into the subconscious because you've done dishes so many times, you're doing it under autopilot. But you are that identity in that moment. So I know I have more to say about that, but I can't remember what I was going to have something good too, and I can't remember what it is, but we'll get back to that. So this is where names matter. I am, you are. Names, labels are so powerful, like reprogramming identity. They're like pre-programmed identities, meaning crazy. Yeah, that fucking guy's crazy. That guy might start acting a little crazier if everybody around him thinks he's fucking crazy. What are the odds he's going to go to work and do a bunch of crazy things? Pretty fucking high, right? Get that guy alone, just you and him. You're not sure about him, you're listening, you might not act so crazy. There's not so many minds there thinking he's a fucking crazy person. They're pre-programmed identities. They're like thought forms. So if everybody thinks that person's crazy, it's like all these little thought forms are all around him. Like, ooh, we're going to get all the crazy juice off this guy. He's got crazy energy that comes off of him. I'm just trying to give you ways to think about these things. They're subjective, but just go with me, okay? But this is why I have a problem with anybody calling my kids ADHD or some kind of learning disability or anything like that. It's like that's an identity that's going to follow them and it's going to stop them from becoming what they can become. I don't like those. I don't like that idea of that at all. That's just silly. Calling people addicts and any of these things. Point is, this is how it's used to your detriment, but you can also use it to your benefit by saying you are something that you want to become to yourself, or writing it down like affirmations, or making spells, writing it on candles, that kind of thing. I'm not telling you to go on Facebook and tell everybody you fucking got $1 million when you don't. I'm saying you can write on candles that you're starting to get steady increases in cash. That you never have to worry about money, that everything is always paid for, your bills are always paid for, your debt is always decreasing every month, something like that. And then you'll slowly see that start happening in your life. The more energy you give that, that's how you rechange things. But there's power in these identities. It's the reason why if you dress like you're wealthy, people see and look at you and think that you're wealthy, that you can start getting enough energy that people are giving you, thinking you're wealthy, and you will become wealthy. A sympathetic magic. It's all sympathetic magic. Environment and what you watch and listen to and who you hang out with have such a profound effect on you. This is why I stopped watching TV. This is why I stopped watching Game of Thrones. I didn't want my mind always giving energy to the actors and the TV shows on TV. I wanted to point my mind at what I wanted to accomplish. Meaning, if I want to do self-development, if I want to do spirituality, if I want to use my mind to manifest the things I want, I'm not going to split it up by watching TV shows. I'm always going to focus on what I want, one thing at a time. Not only that, as at the time when I stopped watching TV, I was worried about lots of little messaging. And, if you watch, like I said, I always use an example. If you're watching all these doctor shows and they're throwing out stats like 3 out of 5 people get cancer. Well, you watch that, you fall asleep to that, it's in the back of your head, that's in your mind. What are the odds that you are like, if you have 5 friends, well, 3 of them might develop that? You see what I mean? This is why I stopped watching TV, because of things like that, it programs you. And once you get rid of that, then you can slowly start programming your own mind, because so much of your life has already been programmed by that TV. So it's a deprogramming process you have to accomplish. And so I stopped watching it, and that's one of the reasons. Now, who you also hang out with, if you have a bunch of friends that call you names like we already discussed, well, you're not going to get very far trying to create a new identity if their minds are always focused on your crazy identity. It's a reason why a lot of people that get into this stuff hide or mask their identity, their magical identity, so that their friends and families and people don't see that shit. And then once again, habits beat labels, meaning you can be crazy all you want, but if you go to work and you don't act crazy, if you feel this urge to do these crazy things, but then you're able to have some kind of self-control, who knows if that's possible or not, but if you are able to, well, then you can beat that and be like, no, he's not crazy, he's just normal, maybe you're just having a bad day, leave him be, and that can stop everything. So
that's my video for today. It's already fucking running long. I got so much more to say, but it's already running so long. Like, I'm probably at 2 hours now. That's a long YouTube video. So anyways, I hope everybody enjoyed this. Thanks again for all the comments. I really appreciate you guys. If you do enjoy my videos and you haven't subscribed, well, it's okay if you don't. I really don't care, but, you know, it's cool if you do it too. But once again, it doesn't matter. Likes and shit like that, I don't give a fuck about. But comments I really enjoy. So if there's anything you want me to clarify about this video or any other video I've ever made, just, you know, shoot me a comment. Or you want me to talk about something spiritual or enlightenment or something personal about my journey or something you're going through that you're not sure of, and maybe I may be able to help, or at the very least point you to a book or a person that I think could help you. Yeah, shoot me a comment, and I'd really appreciate that. So yeah, thanks a lot. Have a great fucking day.